Good morning, students. I hope I'm audible and I will begin the session on that note. Good morning, students. I hope I'm audible and I will begin the session. I think I can see the session has begun. So, welcome everybody to Unacademy's YouTube page. Good morning, students. Right, so today, as usual, I'm going to continue with the newspaper session. So, right now, I'm going to analyze yesterday's newspaper because yesterday we missed out on the session. So, as you know, whenever I deal with a day before yesterday newspaper, then I actually look at more of the bigger stories, something which has a bigger effect rather than the nitty-gritties per day event. So I'm gonna start with the Hindu as usual, and then I might do a bit of the Times of India. It depends on certain factors. Right. So anyway, welcome everybody. This is our channel, Crack Management Exams. So first 5, 6 minutes, 7, 8 minutes, I'll just introduce you guys to what is Unacademy. We are basically India's largest e-learning platform. We are present in several entrance exams, such as in UPSC, Bank PO, SSC, UGC NET, NEET, JEE, etc. So we are present in all these streams, and of course also in CAT. That's where we are making our mark right now. In a brief profile of myself, let me show you. This is myself, Aritro Dasgupta, and I've been with Unacademy for almost 3 months now. I finished my MBA about a decade back at the famed Indian Institute of Forest Management in Bhopal, the capital of Madhya Pradesh. It was in the area of conservation and livelihood management. Since finishing my MBA, I've been working for about a decade in these areas, teaching, training, strategy consulting, and in content writing. My experience has predominantly been in India, but I've also worked in the Middle East and I've been published in the USA. And last 5 years, I have been heavily involved with the coaching industry, and that is why rank holders to several exams such as CAT, CLAT, and DUJAT have been my students. So, what all you will receive from unacademy.com? First of all, you receive daily live classes. So, of course, this is there on unacademy.com as well. And but just to show you guys, this is our channel called Crack Management Exams. We already have 822 subscribers here. So I'll just gauge you guys to goad you guys rather to attend more sessions from our channel. Do follow our channel, be subscribers. I'll show you that channel a bit more in detail. तब तक आप बाकी चीजें देखिए. There are live tests and quizzes as well on a regular basis. So on the spot, I will ask you questions. So on the right hand side, you can see we have the YouTube live chat window. तो आपको जो भी लिखना है आप यहाँ पे लिख दीजिए. आपको कोई क्वेरीज हो, कोई डाउट्स हो, और मुझे अगर कोई क्वेश्चंस पूछने हैं आप लोगों को, वी विल बी मेकिंग यूज ऑफ द राइट हैंड साइड. So do make use of these things. Once you have enrolled with us, you receive unlimited access to all the sessions, which is why it's very important to enroll. Don't just look at free stuff. Do enroll with the course. I'll share with you my code as well. Our course content is very well structured from the head office. This is a list of some of our top educators. This is a few more educators, but more than their names, do take. This is just to show you how these notifications work. So for individual classes, these are notifications for individual classes, the previous slide. This on the other hand is notifications for batches. अब batches भी दो तरीके के होते हैं. This as you can see is just a screenshot. नीचे का जो है, this is for a particular subject with one particular educator. On top you can see the entire course, and that is why we have a number of educators on that list. Mm, even if you have missed a live session, you can always watch this later on. And of course, the languages are also plenty. Our overall platform is there in 16 different languages. I will primarily be speaking in English and Hindi, but yes, our platform is available in 16 different languages. How you can learn anytime, anywhere? Let me just show you that space sharing thing works very well with us, because this is our channel, as I told you. Crack management exam. So if you take a look at all the videos here, there are n number of videos that we are part of. So for example, right, so you can see all my previous sessions, they are recorded here. So for example, daily newspaper, which I conducted yesterday, sorry, day before, and then there are some RC classes, some logical reasoning classes, reading comprehension, verbal ability, then we have geometry, progressions, verbal hackathon. So सारी चीजें हम यहाँ पे cover कर रहे हैं. So इसको please आप देख लेना. Go through our sessions. Whole day long we have classes here. You can interact with your educator to get your doubts cleared. I told you about the live chat window. कोई भी questions हो, feel free to ask us. And then live polls as well. Live polls are possible on YouTube, but it's even easier on unacademy.com. So do attend my classes there as well. So I've already told you about quizzes, which we give you on the spot. But besides this, we also have centralized quizzes, which are conducted by the head office. That includes the entire syllabus, which is why that is really essential. And once you give that test, you will actually get a detailed report and analysis of the same. So extremely essential, because doing well in an entrance exam is not just about the content you possess, which are conducted by the head office, that but it is also about how you are mentally and conditioned and physically conditioned to sit at one place for a period of 2 hours this year and go through a paper. There's a detailed PDF with learning material as well. This again is possible on YouTube, but much better on unacademy.com. So do go through that. Right, so this is my code. I told you at the start of the class that I will be sharing with you guys my code. So do make use of this, maximum use of this AD09. You will get a 10% off once you use this. Just take a look at the entire slide. This will give you an idea in detail ki what are the benefits you will be receiving. Right, I trust you have gone through this. On that note, I will begin with today's class. So, I wanted to give you some time so that you can read all of this. Now, I will begin. Right, so this is the newspaper of the 23rd. So, let me just fetch the paper. I don't see Manan, Jaggu, or Salona attending nowadays. They were regular students. Maybe you guys got busy. If you're watching recorded sessions, do write a message. Will be great to connect. Okay, anyway, moving ahead. First of all, okay, so this is as usual, starting with the Hindu. The first story here is about a couple of MPs in the Rajya Sabha. I think I had told you 8 MPs were suspended from the Rajya Sabha due to alleged unruly behavior. Now these MPs, they did a sit out all night, outside the Sabha in order to protest against this suspension. The deputy chairperson of the Rajya Sabha, the chairperson is by default the vice president. So there is a deputy chairperson. His name is Mr. Harivansh Singh. So he did try to sort of ease relations with these 8 protesting MPs, but that did not seem to work out that well. It didn't really work. MPs from several opposition parties, such as obviously the Congress, there's also the Trinamool Congress, the DMK, the TRS, the AAP, the RJD, the NCP, the CPIM, and the CPI, they all staged a protest. They all left. There were some other smaller parties as well. There's also those from the BSP, the BJD, and YSR Congress. They did not, however, join this protest. BSP did leave the camp, but they did not join the opposition in that. So, a couple of permutations taking place here. The army has been quite positive, the Indian army, regarding peace talks, but they are saying that the de-escalation hasn't really yet materialized. We can still see troops on the Indian borders, the Chinese troops at the tip of the LAC. Right, there is news from the UGC. I think this may be relevant to many of you because many of you might be college students right now. So the University Grants Commission or the UGC has explained that classes for fresher batches, for the new batches, will begin from the 1st of September. So do watch out for that. So, sorry, 1st of November, and they are going to run 6 days a week in order to finish the syllabus. You know, all the colleges. Also, there is a plan of not to have summer or winter breaks this year. Right. I had told you earlier about the LAHDC polls, which would be held shortly on 16th of October. LAHDC stands for Ladakh Autonomous Hill Development Council, based in Leh. There are actually two LAHDCs. One is in Leh, the other is in Kargil. Ladakh, as you know, has been separated from Jammu and Kashmir, but so it's a union territory now. There are no state elections, but you do have local elections. Locals are sort of similar, asymmetric with the rather symmetric with the municipal or panchayat polls. So those will take place in Ladakh on 16th of October. The Kargil date has not yet been set. Now, one there is a particular non-political organization called the Leh People's Movement (LPM), which actually is more of a social movement combining elements from different political parties. So it's not a party per se, but it's a group of political parties which all have a single demand. Now, what is that demand? Let me just tell you. That demand is that Ladakh should be granted Schedule 6 status. Now, what exactly is Schedule 6? Let us understand. In Indian Constitution, there are about 395 articles. In addition to these 395 articles, there are also 12 schedules. Now, what are schedules? Schedules are lists For example, one of the lists talks about the salaries to be paid to the various ministers, MPs, MLAs. There's another list on the languages which are spoken in the country. Likewise, there are two lists, Schedule 5 and Schedule 6, which talk about the scheduled tribes in the country. Now, there's a slight difference between the two. Now, Schedule 5 predominantly refers to tribals in mainland India, which does not include the northeast or the islands such as the Andaman and Nicobar Islands. So, if you look at tribal groups in some of the mainland Indian states such as Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, Odisha, Bihar, Maharashtra, West Bengal, the southern states, MP, Rajasthan, they all have some tribal communities, barring some of the key North Plain states like Punjab, Haryana, and UP. Almost every other state does have a few tribal communities. However, all these tribal communities they stay cheek in jowl, rather right next to non-tribal. So they are basically surrounded by non-tribals, which is why granting them complete autonomy is not possible because their lifestyle would then interfere with the neighboring this thing. For example, a very simple thing is many of these tribals were traditional forest dwellers. They used to stay inside or just outside the forest, and their entire business was around collecting certain material from the forest and selling it to the markets. That cannot be completely, although many places it is working, but it cannot be 100% continued. The reasons are simple, because forest conservation is also one of the primary tasks that the government is faced with. So we cannot really allow all kinds of local people to venture in and out of the forest. That would lead to, even though the vast majority might stick to the rules, but even if a few of them break the rules, break the norms, it could lead to certain troubles. So people in mainland India, the tribals, they are part of what is called Schedule 5, which gives them tribal rights but does not give them the complete freedom of a traditional lifestyle, which those in Schedule 6 receive. Who are the Scheduled 6 tribes? They are predominantly the tribes that stay in the northeast or in the Andaman and Nicobar Islands. So, northeast, if you see states like Mizoram, Manipur, Meghalaya, then Nagaland, Arunachal Pradesh. These are states, and to some extent, states like Assam, parts of Assam and Tripura. These are tribal dominators. So, tribals are actually the majority. They are the original residents of these states, like Nagaland in Mizoram or Arunachal, which are almost completely tribal. So, what happens in these states is there is a traditional lifestyle which is allowed. For example, there is what we call a jhum cultivation, which is shifting agriculture, so, or slash and burn as it is known as, where you don't have fixed land rights. I mean, it's like if I own this land, I'm not here permanently. So people, the tribal communities, they burn parts of the forest, cultivate crops for say about 7 years there. Then they move to another patch of land, and while they cultivate on another patch of land, the original patch of land regains its fertility. So this is something which is discouraged in the other parts of the country, because obviously by this way you cannot follow proper land rights. It will lead to much confusion, but in the northeast, in some places, it does take place. Now, what is this group in Ladakh? I'm going to come back to Ladakh. So, there is this group which is, as I told you, the Ladakh People's Movement, or the LPM, which is, as I said, not a political party but a platform for representatives from different political parties, all having the same demand, which is to grant Schedule 6 status to Ladakh. Because there is this belief that there are tribals in Ladakh as well who require protection under the traditional norms as well. This will help them preserve their culture and not to be dominated by mainland Indian communities. So the LPM has confirmed that they are going to boycott the 16th October election. So all the members, again, as I said, no particular party, but all the members of this organization, whichever party they're from, they would be boycotting this thing. Some of the political parties here, like the Congress, AAP, and BSP, they want the elections to be postponed because of the insecurity along the Ladakh border, along China. So they actually want rights of the council. The Ladakh council should be similar to the Bodo council. They are constantly referring to the Bodo council, which is in Assam, which is only recently there is a Bodo territorial council which was formed, and they are now going to get greater rights. Although I don't think the Bodos have yet received Schedule 6 status. Um, Right. Fair enough. Let's move on to the next topic. There is this organization called the EPCA, which is the Environment Pollution Prevention and Control Authority. It is not an organization; it's a committee which was formed by the Supreme Court's behest. So they have the chief secretaries of the states of Punjab and Haryana have already been issued um, communication regarding the crop burning in Punjab and Haryana, which is an annual thing. Once the Kharif season is over and the Rabi season is set to begin, we annually see every year we see Delhi being covered by a thick haze of smoke, which has other factors, and I'm not blaming this alone, but this is one of the key factors is the um is the pollution that has take place here. So a couple of systems were used. There is the SUFFER system for monitoring of weather, monitoring of air quality, which stands for System of Air Quality and Weather Forecasting and Research, which falls under the central government. As per their estimate, and they have taken details from satellites such as the INSAT 3, 3D, and NASA satellites. The fire counts were on 42 on September 21st, 2020. This is in stark contrast to just a day before when it was only 20 and 0 on September 15th. So it is exponentially increasing the number of farm fires. So something needs to be done about this. The states of Punjab and Haryana are the the ones which are mainly under this thing. So chief secretaries of both the states have been sent. The AQI or the Air Quality Index, which is published by the CPCB or Central Pollution Control Board, was declared as moderate. So it's not that dangerous as yet, but things could get problematic in the near future, in maybe another month's time. So last year, 9.8 million tons of the total estimated crop residue of 20 million tons were burnt in Punjab, according to official figures. While in Haryana, out of 7 million tons, 1.24 million tons of stubble was burnt. So as you can see, Punjab is has done more amount of the farm fires than Haryana. Right. The Niti Aayog, one of the members of the Niti Aayog, Mr. VK Paul, who's actually associated as a health expert on the Niti Aayog, he has warned that during the upcoming festive season not far away, Dussehra and Diwali, that is when COVID-19 could spread even more in India. It could be a super spreader if people do not follow up COVID appropriate behavior, such as wearing of masks and social distancing. So he's added that we need to take greater care during this coming period, because obviously festive season is time to enjoy and not to suffer more, although that could become a reality, unfortunately. Right. Moving further ahead, let's move on to the second page. Facebook, I had told you earlier, had been summoned. The India head, Mr. Ajit Mohan, he had been summoned to a meeting in Delhi for his alleged role or the role of the company in the riots in Delhi in February. However, now Facebook has counter moved the Supreme Court against the summon. So you're moving a summon against a summon, basically stating that Facebook did not have any role to play in this. In fact, he actually missed the first hearing in this. The EPCA, which I was just talking to you about, the Supreme Court appointed Environment Pollution Prevention and Control Authority, they have also spoken about some pollution in couple of city parts of Delhi, such as the Anand Vihar ISBT. ISBT stands for Interstate Bus Terminus, and also the Jhilmil Industrial Area, stating that these areas are amongst the most affected. There's a body of traders very influential in the country known as CAIT, which stands for Conference of All India Traders, Confederation of All India Traders. They have celebrated now the fact that Chinese imports have reduced. India has actually reduced its dependence on Chinese imports by 27.63% as per data from the last quarter. So they feel this is a great step that has taken place. The Delhi government had ordered that About 80% of the beds in the ICU beds in Delhi hospitals must be reserved for COVID-19 alone. However, the High Court has dismissed this, stating that this order came suddenly, arbitrarily, and so it cannot be fulfilled because other diseases also require, um, you know, shall we say, a lot of care. Hmm. Right. Now, moving ahead, I had told you day before yesterday about Ram Leela most likely being organized in Delhi in spite of the fears of COVID-19 and social distancing norms. But steps will, as it seems, be taken to ensure distancing. And in fact, so instead of the thousands of people who usually throng at the Ram Leela Maidan in central Delhi, this year the number could be much less, maybe just a few hundred and spaced apart. Now, what are the major suggestions which are taking place? Lord Ram is likely to wear a mask. In fact, all the actors in are expected to wear a mask. And in fact, the critical scene where Sita is abducted by Ravan, that scene might actually not take place at all. In fact, I mean, it will take place, but maybe there could be smoke, thrown in that time so that you can't really see what's happening. It will be contact free because usually, obviously, Ravan while abducting holds her, but touch is being obviously discouraged this year, so that is not going to take place. Even the battle scenes which will take place will not have any contact. The Vanar Sena, or the who usually are in many numbers, large numbers, because obviously there were many. They will also be reduced. There'll be very few of the Vanars this time, right? So in fact there will be sanitizers present on the sets as well, as it seems the organization has confirmed. The organization, I'll just read out to you. Yeah, it is the Delhi Dharmik Sangh, or the DDS. Its General Secretary, Mr. Ashok Goel Devraha, he has confirmed all of these. Uh, the Congress party is set to protest against in fact, the youth, IYC, which is the Indian Youth Congress, they will be protesting against the central government due to rising unemployment. So, of course, they are the opposition, the biggest party in the opposition. But in a slightly surprising move, one of BJP's allies, which is the Shiromani Akali Dal, they will also be protesting against the farm bills on 25th of September. It has been confirmed by the party head, Mr. Sukhbir Singh Badal. He's the son of the founder, Shri Prakash Singh Badal. However, Mr. Badal has asked party workers not to come in the way of emergency services, so not to really block roads that way, right? Meanwhile, sticking to the point on the Akali Dal, there is a rival faction within the party which wants to set up a separate party. They have now um, sort of approached the Election Commission of India to register the party. So one of the key leaders of the Akali Dal, Mr. Sukhdev Singh Dhindsa, who's actually a Rajya Sabha MP right now, he has walked out of the party and he wants to create a new one, which is the SAD Democratic within bracket. So that could, in lead to interesting outcomes with the Punjab elections less than 2 years away. 2022 it is set to take place. A veteran actress from Marathi and Hindi cinema, Miss Asha Lata Wavgaonkar, she has passed away at the age of 19 due to COVID-19. The Punjab government has actually reduced the levies on basmati rice in order to help out the farmers. Uh, so one of the major saviors of a lot of migrant workers when they returned back to their home states has been the Manrega, or the MGNREGA, Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act, or scheme you could call it. So one state which is actually topped in terms of number of laborers working under Manrega this year is Rajasthan, which has employed 54 lakh laborers under the particular scheme. They are basically seeking benefits for completion of 90 days. 90 days work has by now more or less taken place. There are a couple of local schemes as well which are being used, such as Apna Khet, Apna Kam, which leads to construction of cattle sheds, goat sheds, poultry sheds, and piggeries. There's also the central government's Pradhan Mantri Gramin Awas Yojana. उसके लिए भी काम काफी इसमें स्टार्ट हो गया है राजस्थान में. Okay, moving on to the editorial page. There's one article which I don't really agree with much, but I'll still read out to you. It's been written by Mr. Kunal Ray, who teaches literary and cultural studies at the Flame University in Pune. He speaks about how the Booker Prize is mere brouhaha. Booker Prize, one of the most prestigious literary awards in the world. So one Indian has recently been nominated for that award. Just can't recall her name, but yes, an Indian has been nominated this year among in the shortlist. However, the writer says that bookers are given too much importance. It leads to a lot of fame for the writers or those who are nominated even, and this is a sort of a cultural imperialism. We are still suffering from a sort of a British hegemony, and these foreign awards eventually end up. Mm, Sort of, how should I put it, they are also translated into Indian languages, but this does not really help these awards. Even if we win a lot of awards, it does not really translate to more Indians reading books, so it doesn't really help out in the literature on the ground. Those are his views. I however would disagree. uh, I don't think this is a case of British imperialism. It is the fact that the Booker has established itself as a brand, and if Booker does not matter, then many other things would also not matter. Maybe we should not chase any awards or trophies. We should stop fighting to get lots of medals in the Olympics. Maybe we should not care about international indexes and what is India's rank. I think by that logic, none of that should work. So anyway, moving ahead, there's an article on how recovery from COVID-19, although we do have the highest recoveries in the world, but it's not a one-time thing. There could be a constant struggle. So this article written by Dr. Lancelot Pinto, who is a consultant pulmonologist and an epidemiologist at the PD Hinduja National Hospital in Mumbai, and also by Dr. Nikita Mehra, who is an assistant professor of medical oncology and researcher in molecular oncology at the Adyar Cancer Institute in Chennai. So they have given out this long article. And what can be done has also been explained. In fact, the British Journal of Sports Medicine does have a lot of important insights on this. There's an article by Mr. Syed Munir Khasru, who is chairperson of the international think tank called the Institute of Policy, Advocacy and Governance. So he's spoken about how the entire South Asia region needs to combine together, pool in their resources and combat COVID-19, because diseases, of course, do not stop at international borders, and they could actually be dealt with much better if we all collaborate together. Right? That's the idea that he is telling us. There's also an article by Mr. Rohit Dhankar. Professor Rohit Dhankar is from the Azim Premji University in Bengaluru, also the founder secretary of Digantar in Jaipur, Rajasthan. He says that the e-learning in India is a case of bad education, because we already have a poorly performing education system in the country. So online learning isn't really ushering a revolution. His point being that there is already a massive digital divide, and that has further accentuated the problems which was already there. He also speaks about both the CBSE, or the Central Board for Secondary Education, and the NCRT, or the National Council for Educational Research and Training, how both the CBSE and NCRT do have guidelines on how to improve blended learning or digital learning, but a lot of that is not being followed. The alternative academic calendar, or the AAC, does not really lead to much of, shall we say, knowledge being shared. So he's actually mentioned one of the institutes. I don't know if I should mention that it's called the Khan Academy, which is very famous in the country. So, but the writer speaks about the Khan Academy and how there was an article on the Washington Post, very famous newspaper in the US, deriding the fact that most of these videos don't really talk about concepts, especially in subjects like mathematics, which are conceptual. So students end up not really grasping the basics. Um, so in fact, there is this quotation from that article. I'll read out to you. The exact article is Khan Academy, the revolution that isn't. And that it talks about teachers are concerned that the guy who's delivered over 170 million student lessons to students around the world considers the precise explanation of mathematical concepts to be mere nitpicking. So that is quite a bit of a surprise here. There are also learning enhancement guidelines, the LEG, which have been declared by the NCERT. So that is where greater thrust is now required, and the institutional environment too needs greater empowerment in order to execute these tasks. A lot of these courses are actually not taking place through different media, such as the IVRS, community radio, podcasts, radios, internet. There's also the TV, DTH channels, etc. So these platforms should be further given a fillip so that they can work on such a task. Right, just showing you my code once again. So whenever you are enrolling, please use this code AD09. It will help you get a 10% flat off. I can see one more person has joined this session. So good morning, whoever that is. Do write in. I would love to communicate. I see lots of people attend recorded sessions, but live sessions there aren't many people. So whenever we see embers, we are happy. So do comment, whoever that is. Right, moving further out to a couple of the pages. Mm, Andhra Pradesh is still conducting more tests than every other state, than most other states in India. There's a scheme for sanitary napkins that has been halted now due to there's a scheme, state government scheme called Suchi. It's a scheme in Karnataka that has right now been halted due to limited funds being available. The Finance Minister of Kerala, Mr. T.M. Thomas Isaac, has once again reiterated his proposal for salary cuts and repayment due to the COVID-induced crisis. Right, there's a rather heartening article at the bottom of page 8, yesterday's Hindu. It is about a rice ATM being started somewhere in the south of India. So this lady called Lakshmana, who is actually um, a watchwoman. So Lakshmana and her daughter-in-law Ranjita, they cooked food for several migrant laborers during the peak of the lockdown, and this her efforts were eventually recognized by the local government and the local community, and so a rice ATM was even set up there. Right. Moving further on, so there is news from Jammu and Kashmir. The Lok Sabha has been passing lots of bills lately, and I'll talk about them in detail. The Lok Sabha has, in Jammu and Kashmir, passed the official languages bill. So it has added the languages of Kashmiri, Dogri, and Hindi in the state, in addition to the to English and Urdu, which were already there. The Mr. Hasnain Masoodi, who's from the National Conference, said that the five official languages will confuse the bureaucracy, and Urdu is has been a linked language throughout the state. In fact, it has also been a linked language between Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh. So Urdu alone could have done it. However, the Union Minister of State, Mr. G. Kishan Reddy, he has said that as per the 2011 census, less than 1% people, barely 0.16% of the people speak Urdu as the first language, while Kashmiri is spoken by about 56% of the population, and thus that should be given greater precedence. There have been some movement in Punjab about Punjabi language to be also included here. There has been a demand. The Lok Sabha has cleared three bills. They are all the, shall we say, related to the labor, and I had already discussed those with you. One of them is the Industrial Relations Code 2020. Another is the Occupational Safety, Health and Working Conditions Code 2020, and the third one is Code of Social Security. This was all mooted by the Labor and Employment Minister, Shri Santosh Gangwar, who in fact termed these as historic. So lots of these acts were subsumed. In fact, one of them was the Interstate Migrant Workmen Regulation, Employment and Conditions of Service Act, long name 1979. This was the act which came under much scrutiny due to the situation after COVID-19, when a lot of workers, Indians, were termed as migrant laborers. Some of the trade unions, however, do plan protests against this thing. We are also seeing a lot of farm protests due to some of the farm ordinances that were launched. However, even with protests on, Kharif crops are doing extremely well this year. They are ripening at a rapid pace this year. Mm. The Agricultural Secretary, Mr. Sanjay Agrawal says there has been a 65% year-on-year jump in registration for applications for new food businesses, which does prove how private companies are eager to tap into the growing agri-business market. Right. Okay, there is also this body called the Swadeshi Jagran Manch, which is actually affiliated to the RSS, Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh, which you might be aware is actually the mothership behind the creation of the Bharatiya Janata Party. They have approved of these new bills in agriculture, which have now become laws. However, they feel that some changes should be made, which will be more acceptable to the people, such as the inclusion of the MSP. The MSP has not directly been included in this bill, so that they feel should be just like MRP is included, so MSP should also be included. They feel, this body feels. Anyway, now I'm going to talk to you about a major topic, which is seven bills passed in Rajya Sabha. They were already passed in the Lok Sabha. Now the Rajya Sabha has, and it is now up to the president to sign that. I've already told you how the opposition has withdrawn. Let me tell you which are those seven bills. The first one was the Indian Institutes of Information Technology Laws Amendment Bill 2020, now want to declare five of these triple ITs. Triple ITs is Indian Institute of Information Technology. So not IIT, but IIIT, triple IT. This will be set up, five new ones will be set up under the public-private mode, partnership, PPP, public-private partnership mode. They will be so set up in Bhopal, Madhya Pradesh, Surat, Gujarat, Bhagalpur in Bihar, Agartala in Tripura, and Raichur, which is in Karnataka. These five places. The second one was moved by the Minister of State for Consumer Affairs, Mr. Danve Rao Sahab Dadarao. This was the amendment to the Essential Commodities Act. The third one is the Banking Regulation Bill, Amendment Bill 2020, moved by the Union Finance Minister Srimati Nirmala Sitharaman. This was passed in the upper house. This will give the RBI greater control over cooperative banks as well, which does mean that cases such as the PMC, which collapsed, Punjab and Maharashtra Cooperation Bank. That may not, those will be reduced in the future. The fourth bill passed was the Companies Amendment Bill, which has actually amended 13 sections and added one chapter. Fifth bill is the National Forensic Sciences University Bill 2020. So again, the Minister of State for Home Affairs, Shri Kishan Reddy, he confirmed that the Gujarat Forensic Sciences University will now be upgraded to a national university status. The sixth one was the Rashtriya Raksha University Bill 2020, which will upgrade the Gandhinagar Police, Gandhinagar again in Gujarat, Police Training University to national university status. And finally, it is this taxation and other laws, relaxation and amendment of certain provisions bill 2020. This has been returned by the Rajya Sabha. Return ka matlab hai the Lok Sabha will be looking into this once again before it goes to the Rajya Sabha. So there will be further recommendations sent, and then it will further go to the finally to the President of India. Right, moving further ahead, the Union Health Ministry has confirmed, in fact, the Central Drugs and Standards Control Organization, or the CDSCO, they have confirmed that any vaccine which comes up must have minimum 50% efficacy, which isn't much, but they're saying that is the least before we can actually launch it, and this must prevent infection or disease. The Prime Minister of India is set to host a virtual meet with chief ministers from 7 states. These are 7 states which are the worst affected, which have the maximum cases. 65.7% of the total cases and 77% of the total deaths have been from these 7 states, um, which are Maharashtra. Okay, let me just read out to you the names: Maharashtra, Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka, Uttar Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, Delhi, and Punjab. In fact, Punjab has seen a major rise in the last couple of days, a couple of weeks. So, will be teleconsultation. The health ministry will also be part of the meeting, likely to be part of it. The Supreme Court has even given its consent to the UGC and the CBSE to conduct its compartmental exams so that the results can be declared timely. The DGC, or the Director General of Civil Aviation, has refused to do refunds for flight tickets, but instead said that credit shall be offered for next flights. The Union Minister for Housing and Urban Affairs, Mr. Hardeep Singh Puri, he has spoken about the Central Vista program, because the Central Vista being redeveloped has been one of the burning issues. One of the MPs from Trinamool Congress, Ms. Mala Roy, she had spoken out about this being a massive waste of money at a time when states are being deferred the GST dues. However, Mr. Puri confirms that this will only benefit the economy. It will lead to economic revival because lots of jobs will be created with this. Pakistan has been referring to India's abrogation of Article 370 as malicious intent. However, the first secretary at India's permanent mission to the UN, Ms. Vidisha Mehta, she has confirmed, she has actually rebutted this and said that that is not the case. Of course, there has been a strong response to Pakistan on this. Right, let's move on to the international pages. One of the biggest business tycoons of China, who actually fell foul of the Xi Jinping, you know, shall we say, regime, he has now been imprisoned with a term of 18 years. His name is Mr. Reng Ziqiang, once one of the richest men in China. He runs the property development group Hua Huan Group, which is nicknamed as the Big Cannon. But he has been imprisoned for embezzlement of up to 50 million yuan, the Chinese currency. Renminbi is the official name. So this actually translates to 7.4 million US dollar, and also having accepted bribes worth again over a million yuan. Right, he was also a former member of the Chinese Communist Party, but now he has fallen foul. The president of Taiwan, Miss Tsai Ing-wen, she has visited the military bases right on the front line towards China, of Taiwan's front line, because of fears that there may be a Chinese invasion very soon. Something interesting has taken place from the Middle East. We have seen how Israel has signed peace deals recently with Bahrain and UAE. Palestine, however, because it is angry with the Arab countries not supporting vehemently its demands, they are saying that they are softening their stance on Israel. So Palestine has actually quit its role in the Arab League. They have not left the Arab League. Arab League is a group of around 20 countries that are Arabic speaking. So basically, the Foreign Minister of Palestine, Mr. Riyad Al Maliki, he has announced that they are set to resign from their post as the president of the Council of the Arab League. The Arab League, on an annual basis, the presidency changes. It's a temporary presidency for 1 year, which all the members they take up on a rotating basis. So this year they are going to leave that post. Right, so it does seem that I mean Palestinians seem to be friendless right now, so that is maybe a concern there. By the way, I just told you a while back, Arabic speaking countries. Can you name a few Arabic speaking countries? Arabic is the world's, what, I think, fifth or sixth most spoken language after Mandarin, Hindi, English. uh, yeah, I think it's Spanish. I think it's fifth. Yeah, fourth or fifth. I think. I mean, just above Bengali and Portuguese, right? So, any idea? Can you name a few? I think there are about 17 countries, as far as I am aware of. I'm giving you some time. Wherever you, I'm giving you 2 minutes. आप लोग लिखो कागज में, यहाँ पे भी लिखो. Right, let me see if you have written down the names. Okay, fair enough. Whatever it is, good attempt, not bad. So let me just give you the names. Saudi Arabia, obviously, UAE, Bahrain, Kuwait, Qatar, Bahrain. These Saudi Arabia, UAE, Bahrain, Kuwait, Qatar, Oman. These six are the GCC members in the Gulf. Qatar no more a part of GCC, but yes. Palestine is disputed territory, but let's count them as one. That is seventh. Yemen also in that region. That's eight. Now we look at the eastern part, the western part of that area, the Levant. So you have Syria, Lebanon, and Jordan. That's three countries. And next to Syria, you have Iraq. So that's 12. Now move to North Africa. So there are two basic regions. One is the Gulf region, the other is North Africa. North Africa mein आइए, there are six countries: Egypt, Libya, Tunisia, Morocco, Algeria, and Sudan. That's six. There are some more countries where Arabic is spoken as a second language, where some people speak. But these 18 languages, which includes Palestine, here Arabic is the first language, the official language. Please note, I did not mention Turkey or Iran. These are not Arabic speaking countries. Turkey speaks Turkish, Iran speaks Farsi or Iranian. There are some more African countries like Mauritania and parts of Somalia, Ethiopia, where Arabic is spoken as a second language. Um, as a religious instruction, it's used in many, but as a first language, it's in these 18 countries. Fair enough. Sticking to the Arab belt, there's some very interesting development which has taken place. Abu Dhabi, okay, so the UAE is a group of seven emirates which are sort of semi-independent. I won't call them nations, but yeah, Abu Dhabi is the most powerful of the lot. The other six are Dubai, Sharjah. It reminds us of IPL, the three venues for IPL. You also have Ajman, Ras Al Khaimah, Al Quwain, and Fujairah. These are the seven emirates of the UAE. Now, among these seven, one area in which many of them, as I said, Abu Dhabi is the most powerful. So, Abu Dhabi actually it controls 60% of the territory and more than 90% of the oil reserves. And whoever is the Sheikh of Abu Dhabi or the Emir is by default the Prime Minister of the whole of UAE. The Sheikh of so these seven sheikhs, as I said, they are independent in some ways. One of the ways in which they assert their independence is alcohol laws, liquor laws. So if I look at liquor laws, on the one extreme we have Ajman, on the other extreme we have Sharjah. Sharjah is completely dry, no alcohol allowed, except for there's a club called the Wanderers Club where foreigners are part of. So that's a one small sort of a free trade zone. Usko hata ke Ajman is complete opposite. Ajman you can walk into a departmental store and buy alcohol. So Ajman is the other side. In between, you have different kinds of laws. Ras Al Khaimah is similar to Ajman, easy to procure liquor. In Dubai, you had to have a license to buy alcohol, and that is based on what is your income in that country. Abu Dhabi, meanwhile, also you needed a license. Abu Dhabi, that is where the news is. They have now withdrawn the liquor license. Liquor can now be purchased without any. So the permits for alcohol have now been removed from Abu Dhabi. So, a circular from the Department of Culture and Tourism has mentioned that residents and tourists will have the right to buy it in authorized stores. That is quite a liberalizing norm which is taking place in Abu Dhabi. Right, fair enough. The rest of it is there's not much on the international page. I'll just move on to the business pages. Um, TRAI, which is Telecom Regulatory Authority of India, they have recommended a new body to be set up to monitor net neutrality. It should be a multi-stakeholder body, which means there will be people which will work with the DOT, Department of Telecommunications, and there will be people from different stakeholder groups within that MSB. The Shapurji Palunji group has confirmed that they are going to completely separate formally from the Tata group. They have confirmed that it has now become a necessity. I was referring earlier today to the PMC Bank or the Punjab and Maharashtra Cooperative Bank and how they suffer. They have their, the depositors have suffered very badly. So they have decided to now the RBI has greater control over this thing. AK Dikshit, who has been appointed as he's the ex-general manager of the Union Bank of India, which of course is a public sector undertaking. He has been appointed as the new administrator with effect from 23rd of September. So he will now take charge of the recovery mechanism. You may have heard of this German automobile giant called Daimler. So this Daimler company also has a buses division called the Daimler Buses India, which is a unit of the Daimler India Commercial Vehicles, or the DICV. So its head, Mr. Karl Alexander Seidel, it's a German company. He says that they are looking at a revival of their business post Diwali, in during Diwali and after that, because in fact already some of the demand has picked up, but it is still a fraction of what is in other years. They're just hoping Diwali brings some respite. The company's already sold 7,500 buses, Bharat Benz buses, of which 3,000 were actually exported. They currently export these Bharat Benz buses to countries such as South Africa, and also to Latin American and Southeast Asian markets. And they were compliant with BS4 norms, but now they need to be compliant with BS6 norms, which is Bharat Standard 6. Hindustan Zinc has, which is a constituent part of the Vedanta group. They have been confirmed. Their board has agreed for a 4,000 crore fundraiser, which is be through non-convertible debentures. 4,000 crore will be the total. There's a pharmaceutical company based in Singapore known as Strides Pharma Global Private Limited. They have received the FDA nod, or the Food and Drug Administration, from the USA. They've received this nod for some headache pills and caffeine tablets. SEBI, which is the Securities and Exchange Board of India, which is the regulator for all stock markets, they have added a penalty of 1 crore rupees on ICRA, CARE, and India Ratings, three of the credit rating agencies, for their faulty valuation of the ILNFS. ILNFS collapsed sometime last year, in 2019. So a fine of 25 lakhs was initially put on these three, but it has now been extended four times to 1 crore because of delay and because of further, the credit ratings on the non-convertible debentures, which was really faulty as per the as per SEBI. Jio, of course, part of the Reliance Group, they have unveiled some post-paid plans which will include Netflix and a couple of other OTT platforms such as Amazon Prime and Disney Plus Hotstar. It will be known as Jio Postpaid Plus, which will include subscription to these sites as well. Right. Moving on to some of the sports pages. The IPL, of course, has begun in full earnest. It's in full swing. Um, Sanju Samson scored a lot of sixes a couple of days back. That was one thing. Rajasthan Royals defeating the Chennai Super Kings in a tight contest, just 16 runs. Both ends a very high scoring game. Both teams scoring more than 200 runs. Yesterday also was when Kolkata Knight Riders got their action beginning. Including Andre Russell, the West Indies fast bowler. Hardik Pandya did score a few runs. Rohit Sharma did very well. And of course, yesterday one of the highlights was Kieran Pollard, his 150th IPL game yesterday. So he's the all-time record holder, maximum number of matches across all the IPL teams. He's played 150 matches, all for the Mumbai Indians. Manchester City also began their English Premier League season in style. They, of course, won two titles, did not win this last season, but now they want to reclaim their victory. They started with a 3-1 win against Wolverhampton Wanderers, who also do have high hopes for this season. Um, Kevin De Bruyne scored from the penalty spot, and Phil Foden and Gabriel Jesus scoring the other two, while Mexican striker Raul Jimenez scored the only goal for the Wolves. Aston Villa also defeated Sheffield United 1-0. In Italy, Swedish footballing legend Zlatan Ibrahimovic scored a double. He just keeps on getting better and better. He says that I am like Benjamin Button, referring to that movie in the late 2000s of a guy who kept getting younger as he grew older, starring Brad Pitt. So Zlatan Ibrahimovic, as he's getting older, he just tends to get better and better. So he scored a double for AC Milan. He's 40 plus, I think, and they have defeated Bologna 2-0. One of his goals was a penalty. Meanwhile, Chilean midfielder Arturo Vidal, who's won the championship for 8 consecutive years in different countries until this year, 2011 to 15, he won 4 consecutive Serie A titles with Juventus. 2015 to 18, won 3 consecutive Bundesliga titles with Bayern Munich. Uh, and last year he won the La Liga title with Barcelona, but not this year. So he has left Barcelona as part of Barcelona's offloading, stock clearing basically, because Barcelona had a horrendous end to last season, losing 8-2 to Bayern Munich, and they haven't bought many players, but they just feel that there are lots of other players who need to be sold, older players. They want younger players to come in. So Arturo Vidal has joined Inter Milan for barely £1 million, so he'll be there. Yeah, he's a Chilean midfielder, box to box, solid midfielder, good in the air, wins tackles. He's gone older now, but very good midfielder, good ball carrier, drives the team forward, natural leader. So he's got all the qualities basically. Um The Indian hockey team has seen its analytical coach resign. He's an Australian, Mr. Chris Siriello. He has resigned from the team. In lawn tennis, there's something known as the Hall of Fame. So, what is the Hall of Fame? Hall of Fame basically refers to legends. Even in cricket, we have something called a Hall of Fame. इसमें inclusion मतलब you are one of the legends. So this year, couple of new players are being included here. I'll just read out to you the names. One is the Australian tennis player Leighton Hewitt. I remember he won a couple of Grand Slams about 15 to 20 years back. Then there's also Spaniard Juan Carlos Ferrero. There's Lisa Raymond, an American female player. There's also Jonas Bjorkman. I remember him. He was partnering Anna Kournikova in a couple of tournaments in mixed doubles. Anna Kournikova, who became more famous for her looks rather than tennis. And of course, Sergi Bruguera. Again, I remember him. He was French Open winner, I think, at least once or twice. Spaniards back then used to really dominate French Open. It was a group of Spaniards like Felix Mantilla, Carlos Moya. Now, of course, last 15 years there's been one guy, Rafael Nadal, who's made up for everyone else. Spaniards naturally very good on clay for some reason. Um, but apart from these players who have been included, there's another list. These 5 players have been included for their sporting merit on the pitch. But there are a couple of female players who've been included for some other reason, which is more of a cultural reason. There's another list, and they have been included. They are the original 9. Who are the original 9? They are actually female tennis players who fought hard for equal rights, because their claim was women players, they work as hard as the male players, and so that they deserve as much of the credit as the male players do, and does the money. Lawn tennis is one sport where pay equality would make sense. So they are known as the original 9, and their efforts led to the formation of the WTA, which is the Women's Tennis Association, which split from the ATP, or Association of Tennis Professionals. We might see another split in lawn tennis. You might know Novak Djokovic is creating another organization, but we'll talk on that later on. So, who are the original 9? I'll just read out to you names. Couple of Americans here who are Peaches Bartkowitz, Rosie Casalas, Julie Heldman, Billie Jean King, who was one of the top players, Christy Pigeon, Nancy Ritchie, and Valerie Ziegenfuss. These are 7 Americans and 2 Australian women, Judy Tegard Dalton and Kerry Melville Reid. These are the 9 players, 7 Americans and 2 Aussies. Finally, I want to read out to you an article on cricket. I'll just take a brief bio break and I'll be back. Just give me a moment, please, guys. You take a look at my code till then. Right. Thanks for letting me the time. Okay. So there's this article by Mr. Suresh Menon, who's a weekly columnist for the sport of cricket on the Hindu. So he speaks about how virtual cricket, virtual reality has now really seeped into cricket. And he speaks about the IPL right now, which of course is taking place in the Middle East, the cities of Abu Dhabi, Dubai, and Sharjah, and how we are watching it live, and how television viewing, or maybe through OTT platforms like Disney Plus, Hotstar, that has become the main way of following the sport. And there could be more, he says, and to such an extent that eventually people stop going to the grounds completely, even after the lockdowns are over, because television and virtual reality are adding several layers, which will make it even more immersive, even more exciting to watch it from the comfort of one's home. The UAE has far few cases of coronavirus deaths than India, and far few cases of infection, at least as of now. It's a much smaller country and a very wealthy country. Um, so he also speaks about how in next year's January 2021, India has a home series against England, and there have already been preliminary talks for that home series to also be held in the UAE for the same reasons. Meanwhile, India will also be hosting. There'll be next year's IPL as well, because IPL, remember, is held in March, April every year. This year's got postponed, but next year hopefully it will be on time in the during the normal course of time. So then next year's will should also be, even by then we don't see COVID-19 disappearing. So then as well it should return to the Middle East. So there is a lot of hope for matches in the Middle East behind closed doors. So that leaves a lot of question marks on India. He also speaks about the stadiums being used for the matches, because he says that, and I fully agree, that cricket stadiums are actually sort of white elephants. Why do we say so? White elephant means something, an elephant which is white, there's no actual usage. It can't really do anything in reality. So why do we call cricket stadiums in particular as white elephants? Because remember, cricket stadiums can't be used for any other sport. Barring one sport in Australia, I'll come back to that in some time. But if you look at all the other sports, now, for example, if it's a football stadium can also host a rugby match. It can host an NFL game. It can host rock concerts. If there's a running track around, which I know is not great for viewership, but there could be temporary running tracks like the West Ham United Stadium, the Olympic Stadium in London. Not the most popular stadium, but fair enough. So whenever, if you have a running track, you can also have athletics there. And that is something lots of teams do, like India's Salt Lake Stadium in Kolkata, for instance. It is a multi-purpose stadium. Now, all these things that we have, cricket stadium cannot be used for other things. The simple reason is the shape is very different. Cricket is played on an oval pitch, while most of the other sports are played on rectangulars. But the biggest obstacle is cricket के बिल्कुल बीच में you have that pitch, that batting pitch, bowling pitch. Now pitch is very hard. It's almost like concrete. So football can't be played there, because football is a contact sport, and if somebody falls on the pitch, there could be serious case of injury and damage. Likewise, the shape does not really lend very well to a rock concert. That's why cricket stadiums are usually not multi-purpose. Large cricket stadiums anyway are not filled up in most parts of the world, barring India. If you take away India and maybe Bangladesh, to some extent Australia, large cricket stadiums are very rarely filled to the brim. Unless it's a 2020 game, or India maybe इसलिए होता है because there are so many stadiums, so every stadium gets to host one or two big matches in a year. So this is one of the things that has been, which is definitely a concern. Meanwhile, speaking, Mr. Menon speaks about some of the administrative issues and how we are having one team having sponsors which are direct rivals of the main sponsors. So that is a bit of an issue which is there. He's also speaking about how the presidency of the BCI does need to be now resolved, because the term was supposed to get over in July. So we need to see whether Saurav Ganguly and Mr. Jesha they continue in their respective roles, or there's a change. So let's just see on that front. Right, I'm pretty much done with the newspaper for the day. I'll keep the session as usual open for a couple of minutes. This is my code. Do make use of this. and do let me know whatever are your views. So do like, share, and subscribe to the session. You know the drill, and please subscribe to our channel as well. Right, let me just check out. Sorry. Okay, fair enough. I think we can wrap up for the day. Thank you so much, guys. Wonderful interacting with you guys. Tomorrow again, I'll be taking a session on YouTube. So till then, see you all and thank you. Do not forget to subscribe to our channel. So just take a look at our channel, all of you, so that you may. In fact, there are other sessions also which are going on, I think, right now, which you can all check out in some time. You'll get all the notifications. I have my Telegram channel as well for this, right? Thank you.